Konnichiwa. Hello, everyone. Or depending on the time of the day you're watching this, I should say, おはようございます。おはようございます。That is the equivalent of good morning, although the literal meaning is it's early. Or perhaps you're watching this in the evening. In that case, I should say, こんばんは。こんばんは。In the previous lesson, you learned to form basic sentences. In this lesson, you're going to negate sentences as well as ask basic questions. I'm going to give you a couple of simple basic phrases first. When you offer something like a cup of tea, or when you hand over something to someone, like when you pass the salt and pepper at the table, you will want to say, here it is, or here you go. はい、どうぞ。はい、どうぞ。And the recipient can respond with, どうも。どうも。When you want to thank someone properly, you say, ありがとう, which is casual. If you want to thank someone more politely, you add ございます。ありがとう。ありがとう。ありがとうございます。ありがとうございます。The phrase すみません is used for excuse me or I'm sorry, but people often use it for thank you as well. すみません。すみません。Since すみません is a rather light apology, you may sometimes choose to use ごめんなさい, I'm sorry, which literally means please forgive or pardon me. ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。The casual version is simply ごめん。ごめん。Before a meal or a drink, Japanese people tend to say いただきます。いただきます。It's like a little blessing. Then, after a meal, it's common to say ごちそうさま。ごちそうさま。Try saying these phrases before and after your next meal. Now, when you experience a new culture, you often find yourself asking, what in the world is this? For example, if you go to Japan, you may see something like these. At a time like that, you want to say, これは何ですか? Which means, what is this? Please repeat after me. これは何ですか? これは何ですか? これ is a demonstrative pronoun, which means this, or this thing right here. 何ですか is, what is it? Ask me what the item in each picture is that I'm about to show you. これは何ですか? これは何ですか? これは梅干しです。これは梅干しです。This is 梅干し. They are sour and salty pickled plums. これは何ですか? これは何ですか? これは納豆です。これは納豆です。This is 納豆. It's fermented soybeans that are slimy with a strong pungent smell.
When you go to a Japanese supermarket, you will encounter many items that look unusual to you, such as umeboshi, and natto. The earlier pictures showed konnyaku or rubbery cognac yam cake, renkon or lotus roots, kombu or edible kelp. No, this is not a piece of wood. It's katsuobushi, dried bonito. Today, you can often find it in the convenient shaved form. Kombu and katsuobushi are the basis of Japanese cooking and used for soup stock.
これは何ですか is quite useful. If the item you're asking about is closer to the listener, you should use それ instead of これ。それは何ですかそれは何ですか Or, if you ask about something further away, あれ is used to point at something over there. あれは何ですかあれは何ですかあれは神社です。あれは神社です。You can imagine the sentence, それは何ですか can be quite useful. By using other question words in the same pattern, you can ask a variety of questions. First, let's learn those question words, or what we call interrogatives. 誰誰どこどこいついつどうどうどうしてどうして Now combine any of those interrogatives with the question pattern you learned in the previous lesson. X は Y ですかそれはどうしてですかそれはどうしてですかうちはどこですかうちはどこですかうち is home or house. Another word for house is 家 which refers to the house itself. 家 is a type of the building. 家はどこですか家はどこですか出発はいつですか出発はいつですか出発 is departure. If you want to ask for the arrival time, you can use the word 到着 here instead. 到着はいつですか到着はいつですか The next question contains the word 仕事 which means work or job. 仕事はどうですか仕事はどうですか日本語の先生は誰ですか日本語の先生は誰ですか Another useful question is, what is this item in English or in Japanese? 日本語でtempleは何ですか日本語でtempleは何ですか梅干しは英語で何ですか梅干しは英語で何ですか You have just seen a new particle by means of or using something. So, 英語で is in English and 日本語で is in Japanese. Notice the two possible word orders. At this early point of learning, you will not be able to answer all the questions in Japanese you may get. In that case, you can say, わかりません。わかりません。わかりません is a polite present negative verb form. You will start learning such forms in an upcoming lesson. Now, let's go back to our pattern. X は Y です。 X is Y. Sometimes you may need to say X is not Y. That's right. You probably want to know the negative form of X wa Y です. Remember, です is the copula to be in the polite present affirmative form. The negative of です is ではありません. And it means is not, am not, or are not. The form ではありません is a little hard to say, isn't it? There's a shorter or contracted form, and it's often preferred in spoken language. じゃありません. じゃありません. And it means the same thing. The contraction occurs in English too. Think of how you can say isn't instead of is not. You will also hear another less formal polite negative form. じゃないです. じゃないです. Once again, the meaning is still the same. Is not, am not, or are not. Now, let's look at a few sentences containing these negative forms. 私は学生じゃありません。会社員です。私は学生じゃありません。会社員です。The word 寺 is Buddhist temple. We often attach the polite prefix o right in front of it. あれはお寺じゃないです。神社です。あれはお寺じゃないです。神社です。Remember how you learned that you could combine a country name and jin for person and go for language? For example, 日本、日本、日本人、日本人、日本語、日本語. Now, I will give you another element that can be added to country name. It is せ、which means made in or manufactured product of 日本製、日本製、アメリカ製、アメリカ製、中国製、中国製。Here's an example. これは中国製ですか？これは中国製ですか？いいえ、中国製じゃありません。日本製です。いいえ、中国製じゃありません。日本製です。
Now, let's listen to a dialogue. Try listening to it more than once. You should also try pausing and saying every sentence after the characters. In this dialogue, Sharon is at her friend Yukari's home. They are in the kitchen, and Sharon sees an unfamiliar food item which turns out to be umeboshi. In conversations, you hear various short interjections. Ah is like the English oh. He is like Ne is like hey or look when trying to get the listener's attention. You will hear a couple of adjectives to describe what the pickled plums taste like. おいしい、酸っぱい. One sentence ends with the particle yo. That's just for emphasis or to add certain nuances, like you know. Like in the previous lesson, the dialogue will be shown with the authentic transcription in hiragana, katakana, and kanji. All the kanji will be accompanied by the reading aids in small hiragana right above. それでは、どうぞ. Please listen. ゆかりさん、これは何ですか？あ、それは梅干しです。 梅干しへえ。ねえ、シャロンさん、梅干しは英語で何ですか？英語ではピックルドプラムです。美味しいですか？美味しいですよ。酸っぱいですけど。はい、どうぞ。あ、どうも。じゃあ、いただきます。わ、酸っぱい。
Now, let's look at the Japanese writing system again to conclude the lesson. In the previous lesson, you have seen the first 5 hiragana. A, I, U, E, O. And in this lesson, you're going to learn the next 10 hiragana. Each hiragana has only one way to be pronounced, except for a couple of cases. Unlike the kanji used in Japanese can have multiple different ways to pronounce. This is why kanji are often shown with the reading aid directly above. Those little hiragana are called furigana. Furigana. We have covered the first 5 hiragana, which were all vowels, in lesson 2. The second row or column, depending on how the chart is oriented, is the combination of the consonant k and the 5 vowels. Ka, ka. Ka by itself is the word for mosquito. Ki, ki. By itself is the word for tree. Ku, ku. Ku is shaped like a bird beak. Ke, ke. Ko, ko, which might look like the sideway E. The next set is the vowels with the S sound. But notice, shi is closer to shi. Sa, sa, which has one stroke less than ki. Shi, shi, shi. Looks like a long strand of hair. She has long hair. By itself, it's the word for death. Su, su, su is shaped like a pigtail, so you can think of Sue having a pigtail, Sue. By itself, it's the word for vinegar. Se, se. So, so. Ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. And sa, shi, su, se, so are sounds of vowels combined with the voiceless consonants k and s. Remember? Ski, ski. The voiced counterparts can be obtained by using 2 extra little marks called diacritic. Ga, ga. Gi, gi. Gu, gu. Ge, ge. Go, go. Za, za. Ji, ji. Zu, zu. Ze, ze. Zo, zo. Like she. G may also be different from what you expect. It's not Z, but G. The workbook that accompanies this course will give you pages to practice writing these new characters, as well as going over the new grammar. So I hope you will try it. At the end of a Japanese movie, you will sometimes see the word owari, which is like the end in English. We can use the same word, owari, for the end of a lesson. このレッスンはこれで終わりです。See you next time. それではまた。